Hey guys, and welcome to the video. We're going to be discussing Peacemaker Season 2 and the new DC continuity from James Gunn, so let's dive into DC news. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button to stay up to date with all the movie and streaming news we have going on around here, guys. So we're going to take a look at this article here, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. After definitively stating that DCU starts with Creature Commandos, James Gunn declares Peacemaker Season 2 will address the new DC continuity. So yeah, guys, there's a lot of questions floating around, for DC fans at the moment, what's going to happen with the switch over from the old DCEU to the new DCU with James Gunn when it gets rebooted. And plenty of people have been sending him questions on social media, kind of wanting to clear up kind of some of the confusion around the DC reboot. So let's jump into this article here, guys, and see if we can clear up a little bit of confusion about the reboot. So, DC Studios CEO James Gunn recently confirmed the upcoming second season of Peacemaker will address how the DC continuity is expected to begin with Creature Commandos. Gunn has fielded a number of questions on threads lately, and one of them seemingly provided a definitive answer as to when Gunn's new DC universe begins. He stated, quote, "Nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year, a sort of aperitif to the DCU, and then a deeper dive into the universe with Superman Legacy after that." He added, quote, "It's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time, but I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in the DCU, since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet." So yeah, guys, obviously Creature Commandos, it's going to be a fun animated kind of DC project, kind of similar in the vein to what the Harley Quinn show is. I expect it to be like R-rated, kind of over-the-top comedic animation. And, I'm here for it, guys. I love that kind of thing. I think it's fun just to sit back and have a few laughs and kind of, with some kind of like cartoon characters that are bigger than life. And then we're going to dive into Superman Legacy, which is obviously going to plunge into the DCU lore and backstory even more. But yeah, you can see the exchange here. So you said DC Studios, movies and canon start with Superman Legacy. I and many others are still confused. Are the returning actors playing new versions of the same characters? Is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah situation? Is this as a J. Jonah situation? So nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year, a sort of aperitif to the DCU, and a deeper dive into the universe of Superman Legacy after that. It's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time, but I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in DCU since no one has seen anything from DCU yet. Yeah, I think, to some degree, maybe it's a bit too early to be asking these kind of questions when we haven't even seen the first project. But I'm sure that, James Gunn and his executives over at DC Studios, I'm sure they're going to come out with, clear graphics and video descriptions, and they're going to sort of clear up the timeline as to what's going on, how everything links together. And I'm sure, things will make a lot more sense the closer we get to the time. So he elaborated in subsequent posts. And yes, some actors will be playing characters they've played in other stories, and some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of films, shows, and animated projects that have come from DC in the past, but nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Legacy. That kind of muddies the waters even further, though. That's even more of a bit confusing, even for myself as a big DC fan, because if you've got actors playing the same characters that they've previously played in the DCEU, and then we've got plot points from previous films, shows, and animated projects from DC in the past, but none of it is canon. It's not canon, but they've still got plot points from it. So how does that work? If they're using plot points from previous DC projects, but it's not canon, yeah, that's kind of a bit confusing. I can see why people are so confused about this and why people are asking so many questions. It does get really, really confusing trying to follow this. But like I said, I'm sure James Gunn will clear this up as we get closer to the DCU reboot. So he went on to reveal that some of the actors will reprise their roles in the new DCU. Zolo Marijuana as Blue Beetle, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and John Cena as Peacemaker. Zolo Marijuana will continue playing Blue Beetle in the DCU, as Viola Davis with Amanda Waller, and John Cena will be Peacemaker, Gunn wrote. So yeah, you can just see that exchange here, just him saying what we just read. Gunn would also confirm that Freddie Stromer will reprise his role as Vigilante. Yes, Freddie as Vigilante is still around, he posted. As you can see here, someone asked him a question. This is amazing, Gunn. I loved Guardians Volume 3. I have a question. Yesterday, you revealed things about the DC. I'm a little worried that Freddie Stromer still is Freddy Stroma still in the plans? I love Vigilante. And then he says, yes, Freddy as Vigilante is still around. This is good because this character here was one of the breakout characters from Peacemaker. He was such a fun character, and he was literally DC's version of Deadpool. This guy was just kind of mentally unhinged. He was like a mercenary. He would just go and kill people, didn't care. And like proper acrobatic, jumping all over the place, had a chainsaw. And yeah, he was just literally Deadpool in the DC. And like, he was just a crazy character. And I would love to see this character evolved and sort of, I'd love to see him pop up in the DC universe going forward. It would be so fun to see this guy on screen. So, Gunn also said that viewers will not need to have watched anything before Creature Commandos to understand what's going on. That's good. So, a user asked, for any actors or characters returning, will the audience or viewers need to watch anything prior to Creature Commandos to understand what's going on? Is this a clean start? Here point for all the audience, but a wink to returning viewers. Gunn replied, no, they will not. So yeah, you don't need to watch anything before Creature Commandos. You don't need to have seen any previous DC stuff. Obviously, if you have a bit of knowledge, you know, on the DC comics, that always helps. But that's the same across any superhero medium. Even with Marvel, you know, you don't have to have read the comics, but if you do read the comics, then when you go and watch DC or Marvel films, you know, you see little winks, nods, Easter eggs to things that happen in the comics. So, you know, if you want to go into the, you know, if you want to know a bit more about superheroes, just read the comics. And then when you watch the films, you always see, you know, the odd wink to sort of comic book material, if you like. Gunn would also be asked by a user, will Season 2 of Peacemaker take place in the new DCU, new continuity, or will it be at least be addressed? Gunn replied, yes and yes. And you can see the exchange here. So that's great. So Peacemaker Season 2 is going to be in the new DCU, which is awesome. That's really, really cool to hear. And it's going to address the new continuity as well. So how they're going to make that transition from DCEU into the DCU across the first and second season, that's going to be interesting to see how that's addressed and how it works. I can't even fathom how they're going to kind of make that jump. But I'm sure, you know, some sort of event or, you know, something's going to happen that's going to transition him into the new DC universe. What that could be, I really don't know at this point. I couldn't hazard a guess. So there might be a caveat that viewers might indeed need to have watched Peacemaker Season 1 in order to know what's going on. In fact, that seemed implied when Gunn made the initial DCU slate announcement at the end of January, when he revealed that Wallace series would feature a number of individuals from Peacemaker. It could be the fact that if you watch Season 1, it will help you to understand Season 2 a little bit more, but it's not absolutely necessary to have seen it. Like, if you go into Season 2, obviously it's going to give you a deeper understanding, but if you haven't seen it, you won't be lost. That's kind of what Marvel do, you know, with their Disney Plus series and their movies. It's like, if you've seen Miss Marvel, going into the Marvel's film, obviously you're going to understand a little bit more nuances in the film, because it's going to reference back to what happened to Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. But then if you haven't seen Miss Marvel like me, because I'm not the target audience, then you can still watch the Marvels, but there's just going to be some nuances and little Easter eggs that you probably won't understand or will probably go over your head. So I'm thinking they'll probably do the same with DC. You know, if you've missed Peacemaker Season 1, you can still understand Peacemaker Season 2, but there'll probably be a few callbacks and references that you might not catch if you haven't seen the first season. Sorry if that was long-winded, guys. I was just trying to explain the best way I could. So he said, Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team Peacemaker. And this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It's a fantastic story that's out of this world. And then we've got the little trailer announcement here for Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. So, like the phases in Marvel, we've got Chapter 1, which is basically Phase 1 of the DCU reboot. It's called Gods and Monsters. And James Gunn just had a little announcement saying what projects and what movies are going to be appearing in Chapter 1. So if you haven't seen that yet, guys, make sure you go and search out this little announcement trailer here for Chapter 1. It will explain kind of the projects that are going to be appearing in the first phase of DCU, if you want to look into that a little bit more. So, also based on Gunn's confirmation that Peacemaker Season 2 will address the DCU continuity, there will likely have been some kind of multiverse explanation, given Peacemaker featured Justice League cameos from Ezra Miller and The Flash, Ezra Miller as The Flash, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman. The show used stunt doubles for Henry Cavill's Superman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. It omitted Ben Affleck's Batman and Ray Fisher's Cyborg altogether. Yeah, you can see the screenshot here, guys. So obviously we've got Wonder Woman here, Flash, Aquaman, and Superman. Batman just wasn't there, and like it says, they used stunt doubles for Superman and Wonder Woman, but Aquaman and the Flash were actually there, and they actually had dialogue within the scene as well. So clearly, Peacemaker Season 1 was operating in the old DCEU, given the cameos, but Gunn is now stating that his new DCU canon does not exist until Creature Commandos, and that you don't even have to have watched anything before Creature Commandos. But at the same time, he's saying that Peacemaker Season 2 will address DC continuity despite it being in the old continuity. That doesn't even get to the fact that John Cena's Peacemaker was in the Suicide Squad alongside Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, who had a number of run-ins with Ben Affleck's Batman in the Suicide Squad. It appears Gunn wants to make a smooth break with Superman Legacy, but he's hamstrung himself by greenlighting the Peacemaker spin-off series Waller and Creature Commandos, as well as doing a second season of Peacemaker. It's quite likely those shows were already on the table before announcements given. They are clearly set within Gunn's Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad niche at DC he had been building out before Warner Bros. Discovery boss David Zaslav tasked him as CEOs of DC Studio. So Gunn will be better off scrapping any connection with the old DCEU and start. I know, yeah, to some degree, I do agree with that. It's very, very difficult as a DC fan with all this stuff, because it's like, we've become so attached with DCEU characters and the actors playing them. It's been such a roller coaster over the last few years. The whole Snyder movement and getting the Justice League made. And, we've become so attached to those characters with all the campaigning that we did to get the Snyder Cut released. And it's just been absolute kind of up and down ride. And I know John Cena wasn't in this, but I'm just explaining kind of where I'm coming from. And when you get attached to the characters, to have it rebooted, to have the DC universe rebooted, and to let go of all those characters that we became attached to over the last few years, it's kind of difficult to let go. And obviously, John Cena in Peacemaker Season 1, he was absolutely fantastic playing this role. His acting chops have come on a lot in the last few years. His humorous timing is really, really good. His costume looks great. And, to do a fresh reboot of Peacemaker at this point and get rid of John Cena, it would be a massive mistake, I think, because he's got a built-in audience now. People are expecting a Season 2. And if they swapped out John Cena, I don't think people would be happy about that. So what do you make of Gunn claiming Peacemaker Season 2 will address DCU continuity? So yeah, guys, that's kind of where we are. So that's just the article there saying that Season 2 of Peacemaker is going to be in the new DCU continuity, which is really, really cool. It's awesome. But is it going to further confuse the audience having 2 seasons of the same show in different continuities, played by the same actor and the same character? Is this going to be too confusing? Or is it something that they're going to absolutely clear up? Peacemaker Episode 1, Season 2, they're going to go straight into it and say, look, this is a different continuity. Explain it, firmly so people understand it. It's only time will tell, guys. We'll have to see the first episode of Season 2, how they're going to address it, how they're going to clear up the confusion. But yeah, that's where we are, guys. So jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think it's a dumb idea having, John Cena play the same character in 2 different continuities over 2 different seasons? Or do you think it's a good idea to keep John Cena and just do what they're doing? Let me know what you think, guys. Can't wait to see what you have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.